Before anyone ever heard the word cowgirl, there were women who ventured west. Most traveled with their families on covered wagons, beginning in the 1840s. They moved from crowded eastern cities to settle in western states such as Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. Some wagon trains eventually went even farther, to California, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. After the Civil War, more and more people sought new lives in the West. For nearly 30 years, from the 1840s to the late 1860s, the largest migration in the history of the country took place. The Homestead Act of 1860 mandated that 160 acres could be claimed in the West by men as well as women, as long as they were 21 and unmarried. Though men by far outnumbered women in the early years, by 1870 there were 172,00 women over the age of 20 out west, compared to 385,00 men. While back east most women lived within society's traditional rules, pioneer women had to adapt to survive the harsh circumstances of their journey and new surroundings. Many began to take on chores formerly done only by men. Wives, widows, mothers, and daughters on farms and ranches were helping to settle the western plains. Some of these women homesteaders learned to master the skills of riding horses, roping cattle and other animals, and shooting a gun when necessary. Pioneer Nanny Alderson, who settled in Montana, believed that the new country offered greater personal liberty than the old. Close quote, one new freedom for women that grew out of the pioneering way of life involved a change in wardrobe. In those days, women rarely wore pants, and when riding horses, they sat side saddle. Their skirts kept them from riding like men, and in any case, it was not considered ladylike to do so. One early pioneer woman advised against observing customary attire and riding style while traveling to the West. Side saddles should be discarded, women should wear hunting frocks, loose pantaloons, men's hats and shoes, and ride the cane as men, she wrote. In 1840, pioneer Sally Skull was one of the first women in Texas to own her own ranch, the Circle S, which she stocked with wild horses and cattle she brought across the border from Mexico. Her nickname was Mustang Jan, and her horse's name was Redback. Wearing men's clothing, she drove freight wagons from Texas to Mexico during the Civil War. The marker in her memory states that she was a sure shot with the rifle she carried on her saddle or the two pistols strapped to her waist. A few women pioneers pretended to be men, so they could live like cowboys. In 1867, Jo Monaghan traveled west by herself from Buffalo, New York. To reach her destination safely, she donned a pair of pants, a vest, and a hat, and passed herself off as a man. After settling down in Idaho, she found she liked doing ranch work. In part enjoying male privileges such as voting, and in part fearing the consequences of revealing her true identity, she kept her disguise. Only upon Jo's death in 1904 was it discovered that she had pretended to be a man. The farther west ranchers moved, however, the tougher it could be. Independent women often faced suspicion and harsh judgment on the part of their neighbors. Such was the fate of Ellen Watson, of Sweetwater Valley, Wyoming. Called Cattle Kate, she was accused of rustling, stealing livestock in 1889. Local cattle barons greedy for her land killed her before she could even defend herself in court. Friends, thank you for watching and offer to discuss what you see in the comments. See you soon on the channel.